Hello there, Mr. Salas here. Okay, today in this video, it's a very special video because I'm going to teach you how to improve your accent. Not only the pronunciation, because the pronunciation, when you learn more and more, eventually you get a good pronunciation. But the problem is that many people, what they don't realize when they say that they don't speak well, is that they actually have a bad accent, and that's what they mean by not speaking well. What I'm trying to do in this video is to make you realize that the sounds you are making are not that bad. It's just that the accent is the problem. Okay, and that's very normal. I'm going to tell you how to go from speaking like this, like what I'm doing right now, to so actually sounding a little bit more native-like. And the trick is nothing magical. It's just a little bit of studying, sure, but also a little bit of knowledge and how to put the words in the right place with the right phonemes, and these 5 tips I'm about to tell you. Now, so you might be wondering, why am I speaking like this in this video? Am I trying to make fun of people? No, not at all. This is very normal. This is a very normal accent that we have in Mexico, actually. So do not feel like I'm making fun or anything. No. It's just that I'm going to start talking like this, and eventually, with all the tricks I'm going to give you, you're going to end up sounding like this. I'm going to give you 5 tips to make you sound like this towards the end. Now, are you going to sound like exactly like this or a little bit more native-like after you hear the 5 tips? No, you actually have to put some effort into it, but don't worry, we'll get there. Okay, now for this video to actually be worth it and to work for you, to improve your the way you speak, we need 2 things to be very clear from the get-go, and those are that your pronunciation is good, that you know your pronunciation is good, and by that I mean that, for example, if you say butterfly, or butterfly, all these 3 are fine. You know, the pronunciation is good because the word will be able to register, will be able to be registered by a native speaker. They will actually hear it and say, "Oh, I know what you mean," right? So, however, if you actually say butterfly, or something, that's not correct because the pronunciation is wrong. Just plain wrong. The phoneme is not right. The word is not pronounced in the right way, so it doesn't register. That's bad pronunciation. So a lot of people, when they say they don't speak well, they mean the accent, right? As I said before. So if you know you have good pronunciation, but you know, an odd accent probably, or just you don't sound right, that's good. That's the first thing. Now, we also need to know the difference, as I just mentioned, the difference between pronunciation and accent. So pronunciation is really important, obviously, because that's the way people actually are able to understand you. However, accent is not very important. I know some people would disagree with me. You're wrong. Accent is not important because accent just means the way you say the language, you know, depending on what's your native language like. Do you need to change your accent to the point you sound more native-like? Sure, I mean, that would be a good idea, but it's not necessary, in my opinion. It's never necessary. I know many people who have a really strong accent in like Mexican Spanish, for instance, and they are really good teachers, and their students don't end up sounding like them because they encourage them to go out and listen to native speakers, or to go and get resources from other books or material or music. I don't know, anything, right? So my point is that you don't actually need this video if you don't want to. But if you are this far into the video, I'm going to guess you really want to know how to improve your accent. So I'm going to give you the 5 tips right now. But first, we have to go back to this voice. So we are going to work on this accent. We are going to work on this voice because this is the normal way people in Mexico speak like. And I'm not, again, I'm not trying to be demeaning. I'm just trying to tell you the truth, right? And the truth is that many people sound like this when they are learning Spanish. They are probably not very fluent, or some people are, and that's the problem, because they say, I have good pronunciation and I am very fluent in the language, but I can still not make myself sound more native-like. What do I do? Okay, first of all, a big problem you might have, especially men, is that you are using the same pitch as in your Spanish. What do I mean? So, you know, Spanish has a really high pitch when you are talking. So when we're talking Spanish, the pitch is like it's almost here, you know, it's really high. I don't know why. Not everyone, but most of us speak Spanish a little bit higher. So that's where the pitch is. Now, try to bring that lower. Some people would disagree, but English, in my opinion, doesn't have a really high pitch usually. Because in Spanish, we're very happy. We're always talking and having fiestas and stuff. Try to bring it down a little here, or maybe even lower, okay? That's the first thing we have to do. Bring your pitch from high to low. From low, okay. Now, you can still be very happy and be very outgoing with the lower pitch, but this is just, remember, we are exaggerating. We are exaggerating just to change the way we sound, okay? Perfect. Now, the next thing, and this is the big one, all right? This is the big one. You need to stop using your mouth too much. And what do I mean? I mean your vocal cords, okay? Obviously, you have to use them, but the problem is that if you realize in Spanish, cuando hablamos español, sacamos el sonido como de por aquí más o menos. Obviamente se produce desde la garganta y las cuerdas vocales. Entiendo cómo funciona, pero imagínatelo de una manera más como desde aquí. Escuchan mi español, ¿verdad? So, a lot of people, the mistake they make is that if you see my Spanish and my English sound very similar. Why? Because I'm making the same, I'm trying to pronounce English in the same way as Spanish, and that will not fly. Sorry, you have to do something about it. So first, the lower pitch, right, as we said before, and now try to use your throat. What do I mean by that? Okay, if you can make this sound, and sorry, this might be a little disgusting. Okay, don't look behind you, there might be a spirit there. So if you can make this sound, okay, that means you can use your throat to speak. The only thing you have to do is try to make that sound. And now try to speak with that. So when you are talking, try to keep that sound there. Okay, perfect. Okay, now, so what does this sound like? Right, so now here I am using my throat, still with the bad sounds of English, but you know, now I'm trying to use my throat more to speak. And you can immediately tell, oh, that sounds better. You know, that sounds better. Definitely that sounds better because I'm using a lower pitch, right? And I'm trying to use my throat more. And you can immediately tell, oh, this guy sounds better than the guy before. What gives? Well, it's just that English uses a lot of throat sounds. And if I don't use my throat, as you can see here, so it's easier to make mistakes and it's a little bit more Spanish-like because of the way you are pronouncing the words, okay? So remember, just try to use your throat more. Yeah, there you go. Okay, perfect. That's the second thing. What is the third thing we have to do when we are trying to improve our accent and pronunciation? Is you have to actually look up the actual sounds of tricky words and the vowels and the consonants, okay? So you have to go ahead and learn a little bit of phonetics if you really want to have a good accent. Sorry, there's no way around it. Now, how do you do that? Luckily for you, I have two videos, one for consonants and one for vowels. I'll leave them here, and you can look. You can take a look at them and try to pronounce and try to see if you're pronouncing the words correctly and in a good way. For example, some words that we usually have wrong, like V, right? V is not B. It's not Betty. It's very. And if we're using the throat and the correct accent and everything, we say very. And that's a big difference there, right? So using the throat with the correct phonetics, now we should be able to sound a little bit like this, right? So if you realize now, those three things, the lower pitch, using your throat, and obviously the actual sounds of the words and vowels and consonants, all of that gets together and improves the way you sound like. Now, as I said before, is this very important for people? No, I would say if you're a teacher, the better you sound, it's just better for your students because they will be able to imitate you a little easier, and it's also your presentation card. Basically, it's like, oh, this sounds really good in English. I'm gonna try to study with him or to imitate him. And you see what I did there? Imitate him, imitator. That is number 4, connected speech. And connected speech, it's something that a lot of people struggle with. They never know exactly what it is. They say, oh, what is this exactly? Like, what do I have to do for connected speech? Do I have to say one word and put it together with another one? Do I have to speak faster? What gives? Well, connected speech is just the art of connecting two words kind of into one, or three even. What do I mean? So for instance, that's wrong. It's for instance. Or given my regards. Give him. The H even sounds a little bit silent as well, right? So give him, give her, give her, giver. That would be connected speech. So that happens a lot in English, and some people never actually realize. Now, how do you study this? Actually, usually I would have told you, oh, just look up connected speech and practice it. That's a really bad idea, and I'm sorry if I ever told anyone that. What you should do is something that Refold says. If you don't know what Refold is, I'm going to give you a link in the description. But they basically tell us how to learn how to speak. The best way to do it is to imitate a native speaker. Don't imitate a language. That's impossible because it depends on who is speaking the language. But try to imitate a native speaker. So for instance, if you really like Will Smith, try to imitate him. Try to see his interviews, his movies, and try to imitate the way he speaks all the time. You probably like, I don't know, Henry Cavill, for example. So you try to imitate him as well. Right. So you just pick a native speaker and you try to sound like them. After we start using the lower pitch, using the throat to speak, and use the actual sounds of the words plus connected speech, that's how we get to this level. Now, how do you maintain and improve? Well, that's easy. You just talk to yourself all the time and record yourself every week, or I would say, if you have the time, every 3 days. Try to record yourself reading the same thing over and over and over again, and eventually you realize how much you have improved or how much you haven't. And if you haven't, that means you have to do something. I recommend having the original audio, probably from a, I don't know, audiobook or something. Listen, or maybe an interview, as I said before, having the audio play, and then you imitate it, you know, kind of like shadowing. If you don't know what shadowing is, I'll give you a link here of the video. You can actually tell, oh, am I improving? Am I sounding more like the audio or not? And that's gonna give you a good impression of, you know, how much you're improving or not. This is how we went for sounding like this, right? So usually this is the way people speak all the time in Mexico. So maybe after we adjust everything, eventually you can probably sound like this and be a little bit more, you know, sounded just better in general, if that's really what you want. Now, after, by the way, extra tip here, after you got to this level, you can probably bring your pitch a little higher, which is what I do when I talk. But the lower pitch is just to practice, you know, at the beginning to, because it's easier to pronounce everything on a lower pitch, at least for me. So eventually you can just bring your pitch as high as you want. It's no problem, you know, eventually. But after you got the, you know, the pronunciation and the accent down, you can go as high as you want. There's no problem. All right. So, I mean, just don't, I'm not telling you to just go lower pitch and that's it. No, I mean, I am, but not forever. Eventually, you find your own voice, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Thank you very much. Saludos a todos nuestros alumnos autodidactas y futuros políglotas. Class dismissed.